Hey, everybody, and welcome to Notes from the Other Side. This is a podcast for people who love Jesus but have some real concerns about Christianity. Here at Notes, we take a microscope to some of Christianity's thornier topics and people using a progressive theological lens and a socio-historical approach to studying the Bible. So if that sounds like your jam, come on in and have a seat. But buckle up, it might get bumpy. All right, folks, welcome back to Notes from the Other Side. This is a podcast where we take a microscope to some of Christianity's thornier topics and people. I'm your host, Tiziana did not forget her riddle in verse. I popped a pill on my way down because I was late and I was like, oh gosh, here comes the
Here comes
the too much Tiziana, which is normal for me, but probably not for you guys. That was Rocket Man Andy Bishop.
Hi.
I used your nickname.
You used the moniker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with me, my best friend, Rick Welch.
She's my best friend. I missed you so much.
I know. I'm very excited to be here today.
You know what? I only get to see you like once every month or two.
I know. It's a big to-do.
You need to come to Welch's Winter Wonderland.
Oh.
Dylan asked me yesterday.
It's on like Donkey Kong. It opens tomorrow night.
Oh my gosh.
6 p.m.
Okay.
Through January the 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, we will be there.
You get free hot chocolate
Ooh.
to take your
Come on.
Ritalin with.
I like free stuff.
It's wide open.
That
it's
sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited. So we'll do that. I'll text you. The kiddos were both homesick with a fever today, which was a big wah-wah.
There's a lot of stuff going around.
Yeah, but
I've missed it so far, but my roommate got sick for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hopefully by next week, because they're both going to be out of school,
Yep.
we'll come down and visit.
You come on down.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Folks, I'm super duper excited about
So
this
am I,
episode
actually.
today. Yeah, because we have a very special guest who's sitting there so patiently waiting to be introduced while I ramble on about nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
We have in the studio with us today Dr. Reverend Vicki Garlock, who in addition to being the children's minister at Land of Sky, Universal Church of Christ, which is where we go. We just had Pastor Sarah on a couple weeks ago. She's also a published children's author and the current Guinness Book of World Record holder for most sites of worship visited in a single month. Vicki, how's it going?
It's great. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh,
and
man.
I've seen pictures of the Winter Wonderland.
Oh, have you?
I can recommend it. Just photographs, but I can recommend it.
Really?
May I say, Reverend Dr. Vicki Garlock, you have the best podcast voice I think I've ever heard.
That's excellent.
Listen to her
Wow,
voice.
really?
Perfect.
Oh,
yeah.
my
Wow.
goodness.
Yeah. I wish you could see her too. She's real cute.
She's a very good looking woman, but her voice is amazing, and I'm very excited to hear all this about this Guinness World Record. It's so cool.
So, folks, just to dive right in. So, I got a chance to hear some of Vicki's story recently on a Zoom meeting, and I was just so thrilled to tears because it's such a fascinating story. And so we've invited her to come on the show today. She's graciously invited to be here, or agreed to be here. Anyway, give the drugs a minute; they'll kick in. But so to begin, so I missed the first part of the Zoom because there was a recording issue. So to kick us off, you recently completed this incredible journey where you visited the most sites of worship ever visited by anybody, recorded by the Guinness Book of World Records in 1 month.
That's right.
You were in Chicago.
That's right.
How did you conceive of this?
Right. So in June of 2023, there was an article in an outlet called Religion News Service. And it's a digital outlet because I'm in the business of teaching people about the world's religions. I read Religion News Service. And I was sitting at my kitchen counter in the morning, reading the morning edition, so to speak. And there was an article about a guy from India. He was in Delhi, and he had established a Guinness World Record for visiting the most places of worship in 1 month. And it was 76. So I'm just sitting there doing quick math. I'm like, 76, that's like 2 or 3 a day. And I looked up at my husband and I said, very cavalierly and not knowing what I was talking about at all, and I said, I think I could beat that. And, we've been married.
I love that. Awesome. I love that.
We've been married a very long time. And so he didn't say much. I think he was a little afraid in that moment that I actually was going to try to beat it. And so
he was like, this is just like that time she said she could hold her breath for an hour.
Exactly, right. Exactly.
Right.
Or grow my fingernails for 34 years. So, So I was thinking about doing this attempt in 2024, and we had a lot of family things. My daughter was graduating from college. My son was graduating from high school, so it didn't really work out. It just wasn't going to work out. And so in January of 2025, I started working on it in earnest. And the first step was really to figure out where I was going to do it.
Because there's some constraints, right?
Well, I didn't know any of that. So I didn't know any of that.
Okay.
So in January, of course, the first thing I have a lot of friends in the interfaith world, and they all said the same thing. You've got to go to New York City. You've got to go to New York City. And I don't know New York City. I'm sure it's a wonderful place. and I know like 3 people there. And so I thought, wow, that just feels really hard. I looked at DC. I looked at Atlanta. And I looked at Chicago. I grew up about an hour south of Chicago. Sometimes you can still hear my Midwestern accent. And I have a lot of friends. Almost all my high school friends are still in the area. And at the time, I thought they might be able to help me in some way. And so Chicago just started to make more and more sense. As it turns out, I'm not sure I could have done it anywhere else. I tell people sort of half jokingly, the best decision I ever made was marrying my husband. The second best decision I ever made was Chicago in September of 2025. So, yeah. So I started making maps. Like I was trying to map out, how could I I really only needed to get 77, right? I mean, that would beat the record. But I thought, well, I should pad it a little bit. So I was aiming for 85. And then as time wore on, I was getting more and more nervous, and I felt like I should pad my padding. So maybe 95. And I actually found the guy who held the record on WhatsApp. So I told him, I messaged him through WhatsApp, and I said, I'm going to try to break your record. And I don't think he was super excited about that.
But he was like, great, let me help you. Let me give you some tips.
He wasn't very helpful either, right? He wasn't really giving me very much information. He was like, oh, okay, well, let me know how that goes. So anyway, in the meantime, while I'm planning this, and I had this huge map on my wall, and you can't just make a map. There are no Google Maps of places of worship. So I started with churches, right? And literally printed them out, which my young adult children thought was hilarious that I was using these, 2-dimensional maps on paper.
You remember MapQuest?
Right?
Remember when you wanted to get anywhere, you had to Google Map it, and you had to use MapQuest and then print it out?
I remember not getting where I wanted to with MapQuest.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And so, and then I would add, where the synagogues were, or where the masjids were, or where the temples were, and I created these maps. In the meantime, I was in contract talks with Guinness. So there's a whole separate piece of this adventure, which is working with Guinness.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Right. So you go on the website and you fill out this form that says, I think I want to try a record, and then, eventually they get back to you. But Guinness is a brand, and so they really care about their brand. And so if you want to post on social media about your attempt, in my case, I wanted to post on social media during my attempt. Well, you pay for that. They're not just going to send you like Guinness logos that you can use. And then if you get a Guinness World Record, you can use the world record holder logos for 7 days afterwards, and you pay for that as well.
Oh, wow.
It's very interesting.
This is just good business.
And
I'm telling you.
Exactly.
It's really good business.
It really is.
It is.
It really is. I mean, they are an international company, right, with over 65,000 world records, and they certify over 3,000 a year, I think. So this is they care about this. They can't just have people running around all over the world saying they're trying to get a world record when they're not. So in the meantime, you can also do what's called an adjudicated attempt, which means you have a Guinness judge that is assigned to you for your attempt, and they will tell you right away whether or not you achieved the record.
Oh.
Or you can do, which is free, a non-adjudicated attempt. But that can take at least a year, if not more, to actually find out if you earned the record.
So you have to pay money.
You had to pay money. You had to pay money. but they wouldn't tell me the rules of my attempt until I paid them the money. And I'm married to a lawyer. So I didn't want to pay them the money until they told me the rules.
Yeah.
And we literally got to a standoff. I mean, it was a standoff, and there was no way, it was an impasse that we could not move through. And so around the end of June, 6 months later, I put everything away and I quit. And I said, I can't do it. I can't navigate this.
Yeah. If you're not being told how to navigate it.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you're in for a penny and for a pound.
I took my maps off the wall. I put my notebooks away. I told all my friends, my family members, I said, I'm not doing it. They said, but you've been planning for this, off and on since January. And I said, I can't do it. Like, I don't know how to move through this. And the person I was working with, actually, it was summertime, went on vacation for 2 weeks. So I'm like, I'm out. And so I put everything away, and I was so sad. I was so sad, and I was so bored and so disappointed. And so when the person I had been working with got back from vacation, she emailed me and said, do you still want to do it? And I said to my husband, I think I have to do it. I think I have to just pay the money and get it all set up and just live with the rules, whatever the rules are, and I'll deal with it, because I don't know. I'm so sad not doing it. So that's what I did. And I got the rules. I got the rules probably around the 3rd week of July. And I was literally moving to Chicago for the month on August 29th.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy.
That is wild.
So it was definitely a leap of faith.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
Definitely a leap of faith that I would somehow be able to figure it out and do it still once I got the rules.
So what were the rules?
So the rules were, I had to take a selfie outside the place of worship. So that's not really a problem, right? You take a selfie in the exterior. And then I had to turn around and take a quick video. So everything had to be time stamped, right? So that, because Guiness, they can't be walking around with me all day, every day. They have to have verification. So that was the verification. Then I had to get someone at each place to sign a witness form saying that they saw me there at that time and in that place, right? It does all make sense.
Was it a special Guiness form that you had to print and take?
It was not. So what I ended up doing was I thought to myself, I should just create a form that I can use and just, put the name and address of each place. And then underneath of it, just blank lines for their name, the date, the time, a signature, etc. And they told me what they wanted on the form. And I showed it to my judge beforehand, and she approved it. She said, that looks good.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Then they told me the 4th rule was not allowed to use a car.
Get out.
No personal vehicle.
Get out.
So that's why it was a good thing I was in Chicago.
I was going to say, because you can use their transportation.
Chicago Transit.
Atlanta would have been a terrible choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. New York, I could have done it, except I don't know New York.
Yes.
But DC and Atlanta, I would not. In order to do it, I did ask them, could I use Uber or Lyft or something like that? And she said, I'll have to get back to you on that. And she did get back to me and said, yes, if I kept my receipts. So had I done it in DC or Atlanta, I would have had to, because I had decided I was going to do it no matter what, I would have had to, on top of the expense, I would have had
to. Take a bunch of Ubers.
Yeah, take a bunch of Ubers. And in Atlanta and DC, a lot of the diversity in the places of worship are not in the center part.
No, Atlanta is a mess, especially that way.
Yeah.
Huge,
Wow.
Huge sprawl.
Which is why, huge sprawl. And in DC too, you're like in Maryland some of the time and Virginia some of the time.
Yeah.
That is exactly why I didn't pick those 2 places. So so me and the Chicago Transit Authority, I mean, I took over 65 L rides, over 65 bus rides, and I walked over 350,000 steps.
Wow.
I was walking 5 to 6 miles a day.
I'm so curious. How much weight did you lose?
You know what? My yoga friends, I came back and my yoga friend said to me, you lost weight. And I said, did I? Because I wasn't stopping to eat,
You were
right? I was eating
busy,
I was
yeah.
busy. I was eating a Cliff Bar and drinking a lot of water. Luckily, the weather was great. And then I would get home and it was just me in this Airbnb. And so I just like make a can of soup. And then I would start uploading all of my evidence
Absolutely,
from
'cause
that
you
day.
had to
So
do
every
it.
night I had to upload all the selfies, all the little video
Oh
clips,
my
and all the witness
gosh.
forms. And then I had to start printing out witness forms for the next day. I brought my printer with me. So that was it. And then by that point, it was like 9:30 or 10. I'm like, well, I'm just going to go to bed now.
Might as well.
So that's what I did. So yeah, so I
I'm still
assured my
like,
yoga.
I'm still freaking out about 350,000 steps.
Yeah.
Well,
Like a mile is 2,000
To
steps,
find
right?
yeah,
out
if you divide
after.
it, if you divide it by 30 days. I actually did it. I did it in about 25 days, actually, as it all turned out.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, but so it was a lot, and yes, I'm sure I've gained that weight back. I mean, because that's not really sustainable for
No,
me
no.
to eat a Cliff Bar and a can of soup and walk 5 to 6 miles a day.
No,
I mean,
no,
that's
it's not good.
That's not my life. I'm
not
sure that's someone's
sustainable.
life, but that's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not.
Not to mention the
sustainable.
anxiety of being on an L train. So you could that definitely would help you lose weight too.
I actually felt like the L trains were less anxiety provoking for me than the buses.
Really?
Because the buses, you're just standing there.
Yes.
A lot of the L train stations in Chicago now, it'll tell you, oh, it's coming in 3 minutes. Oh, it's
Mhm.
coming in. And there are a few bus stops, like nice bus stops at big intersections that have that. But most of the time, you're just sitting there looking up the street, and they have apps. And then it seems like the bus is coming, and then it's not. And and then they have all these weekend festivals in Chicago, and so they
Yes.
close streets, and so the buses have to
Oh,
go
doing,
on
yeah.
Friday afternoon. They would close all these streets off, and the buses would have to go around. So I found, as soon as I saw the bus out in the distance, I noticed that, I started breathing more easily. I'm like, at least it's on its way. It just felt a lot like, I think I wasn't using the right app. I think people in Chicago, I noticed a lot of Chicago natives were showing up like 4 seconds before the bus came, like they knew. And I kept thinking, I think I'm not using the right app. But there you have it.
Yeah.
I managed in my own
Wow.
little way.
So you prepped for this experience, not even getting the rules until like less than a month before.
That's right. About 5 or 6 weeks.
And the way that you were prepping for this was like basically Googling churches and their addresses,
Mhm.
writing down their names and phone numbers, and then trying to map it out so that you could visit certain
Yes.
ones all at
Okay.
one time.
Yeah.
What counts as a qualifying religious?
So
place.
that was interesting too. As it turns out, I felt like Guinness was pretty open about that. So it was any place where people gather to engage in education or worship. So I could use like Jewish schools, I could use Muslim schools. So I felt like that was less of an issue. There was almost nothing that they would balk at. I actually sent my judge a pre-list so that she could just sort of look at where I was thinking about visiting. And, she thought they were all fine. So that part ended up not being as much of an issue. I felt
That's
like
funny,
Guinness
'cause
was very
that's-
open about that.
I assumed that would be kind of a stumbling block. but
Yeah,
no.
right. I mean, that's what was one of the things that was sort of interesting about it is some of the things that I thought were going to be stumbling blocks weren't, and other things that I thought were really obvious ended up being stumbling blocks, unanticipated.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
start us from day one.
Oh yeah,
You
so
get to
Dave,
Chicago.
Yeah, so this is great.
You're ready
So
to rock and roll.
My move up there, my husband and I drive up there, and I decided to spend 2 weeks in an Airbnb in an area west of downtown called Wicker Park. And so I could take buses and go to a neighborhood, and that was my plan. Get up, go to a neighborhood. I had emailed them again, called them to set up appointments. Hey, I'm going to be in your area. I'm going to be in the loop. Can I come by around, 10 o'clock on Tuesday? I need someone to sign my form. And before I got up there, I had about 85 places where I had appointments. And so technically that was going to be enough to break the record, right? But except I got nervous and I wanted to pad my padding. And so the last week wasn't very well scheduled out. And so I thought, well, when I get there, I'll email a few more people and maybe I'll get to like 95 or something. That was my plan. So yes, I'm all ready to go on Monday, September 1st. Well, no, that was Labor Day. There's no one there to sign my form. There's literally no one there to sign my form. And so I start my month, like the first day, I got 0.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I started a day behind her. That's how it felt in the moment. I actually took the day. There are a number of, and by a number of, I mean like a dozen Hindu temples kind of far west of the downtown area around O'Hare Airport that I wanted to see, but they weren't going to count for the record because I couldn't guarantee that anybody would be there to sign my form. And many of the Pandichis who work in these Hindu temples don't speak English very well. So, and also, how was I going to get all the way out to O'Hare? So I took that Monday and I had my car with me. And so I just went around. I just wanted to see them. So I went around and, used the day to see a bunch of Hindu temples, but none of those counted for my world record.
Wow.
So I officially kicked it off Tuesday morning, September 2nd at
I wouldn't have thought of that either.
I
It would never even occurred to me.
I know. It's always something. Chicago.
You thought of everything else.
Well,
I feel like,
to
I thought of
so.
everything else, but I forgot about Labor Day.
And that was actually what was so stressful for me, right? Is because it was such a complicated endeavor with so many unknowns that I knew that no matter what I did, there would be something that I hadn't planned for. And that's part of what made me nervous. No matter how much I thought about it, I knew there was going to be something that I was going to have to figure out on the fly. And I had to, again, leap of faith. I had to trust myself that I was going to be able to figure it out. And my friends and my family, I felt like they kept saying, oh, you'll do it. Oh, you'll do it. And I was like, I don't think you all realize how difficult this is.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to be encouraging, but I felt like they were just sort of being dismissive about how hard it was.
Yeah.
And how nerve-wracking it was.
Yeah.
I think the lesson that I've learned is that if I see anybody try to do something hard, I'm going to be like, you can't do it. Just be that one naysayer so you realize, like, oh, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
I actually have a story about a naysayer that's pretty funny.
Here we go.
But so anyway, so on Tuesday I went around and I had like 4 or 5 appointments in the Loop. Started in downtown Chicago, went to all those places. Everybody was there, did everything I was supposed to do, loaded up my information, asked my judge, does this look right? She says, yeah, that looks good. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Next day, Wednesday, September 3rd, I get up, I go around some other places in the Loop. It's all good. Thursday, I get up, I'm near North. I go around, it's all good. And I'm starting to get suspicious. I'm like, this is going a little too well. And what's going to happen? Because there's no way I'm going to get 30 days of this.
Yeah.
So another day in near North on Friday morning, I got up, I'm going to all my appointments, and here we go. At 11:30 on Friday, September 5th, Guinness emails me as the person I had been working with. And she said, well, I just want to let you know that someone else already broke that record. And the new record is 111.
111.
Wow, big change.
From 85.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't even from that. It was 77.
Well, yeah, but she had padded her padding.
Yeah.
I patted my
Trying to get to 95.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they can get just shoot for the moon with 95.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a plot twist.
So, of course, I was, my initial reaction was to panic, but there was no time because I had all these appointments. There wasn't anything I could do on Friday.
No time to panic. It's
so
perfect.
I decided that I would, say very little. I didn't want my Guinness people to know that I was in a panic. I didn't want them to know that I was desperate in that moment. And so I just emailed back and said, oh, thanks for telling me. Smiley face.
Yeah.
And then my judge emailed me separately and she said, well, I guess you've heard it's 111 now. I've seen your list and I know you're in Chicago, so I hope you'll continue to try. And I'm just like, yep. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Because of course I was totally panicked. So
Did you cry?
No, but I'll tell you what I
Okay,
did do.
I love to ask that question to everybody for any reason. I just
Yeah, I'm kind of old, so I don't really cry that much anymore.
You're not old.
And so, but I'll tell you what I did do. I went and ate an entire pizza by myself and
Now you're
drank
talking.
two or three glasses. I don't really know how many glasses of wine, but a few.
Was it
Enough.
deep
Yeah.
dish Chicago pizza?
No, it was not deep dish Chicago
Okay.
pizza. That is not my favorite pizza.
No,
I
okay.
know. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
No, it's totally okay. I was just curious because you were in Chicago.
That's right there where I should have gone to New York. And I can have
Hmm.
New York pizza.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
But yeah, so I drank wine. I went home. And the problem was, for example, the next day was Saturday.
Sure.
And so I had 2 places scheduled. So not a lot of people are around on Saturday. And so I had 2 places scheduled. And I had 2 places scheduled for Sunday. I had been invited to go to a worship service on Sunday, and I had another place that was nearby. But what I realized Friday night was that wasn't going to cut it. Like, I couldn't just go to 2 places on Saturday morning. And then what was I going to do? Like, sit around for like 10 more hours and just worry about how I was
Right.
going
Oh,
to get
yeah, that's
112?
rough. Yeah.
Right? So I thought, I'm going to have to do better. I don't know how I'm going to do better, but I got to think of something. And so I started thinking Saturday. Who's around on Saturdays? And I realized that the Seventh-day Adventists are around on Saturdays. And of course, they were on my maps. The Seventh-day Adventist churches were on my maps. I had emailed them, didn't hear back. Had emailed them again, didn't hear back. I'd called them, never heard back. So I had tried. And now I'm in a situation where I need to try harder. I don't know what else to do.
Time for a cold call.
That's right.
Just walk right
That's
in
right.
the door.
So
Yeah.
I get on the subway or bus, whatever it was, and I go to the one that's closest to where I was staying in Wicker Park. And it was called Epic Seventh-day Adventist Church. And it's an art gallery during the week. It's Epic Art Gallery. And then on Saturday morning, they come in and they set up the coffee table and they create a sanctuary, and that becomes their place of worship.
That's cool.
It was very cool. And so I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to be brave. So I go inside and I say, hi, I'm Vicki, and I'm here from Asheville, North Carolina. I'm trying to get a Guinness World Record visiting those places of worship. And the guy said, that is so cool. Of course we will sign your form.
Yay!
We will sign your form. And he said, he shows me his phone and he says, there's like 2 other Seventh-day Adventist churches just north of here. You should go there too.
Yes.
Now you're talking.
So I said, okay. Of course, I knew where they were because they were on my maps.
Yeah.
So I go to the next one and I walk in, and it's actually a Spanish Seventh-day Adventist church. So it was officially called, and completely opposite from an art gallery. It was a huge, looked like a government building, big white government building with big pillars, huge. And it's called Iglesia Adventista del Séptimo Día, right? So I go in and I say
Beautiful.
the same thing. I go in and I say, hi, my name is Vicki. I'm here from Asheville. I'm trying to get a Guinness World Record. And these women, greeters, ushers, I don't quite know. They were kind of dressed similarly. They start to look at each other and mumble something about Geordie. I don't know. One of them scurries away and goes upstairs. And I'm like, well, it seemed like a good idea. All of a sudden, this guy, Geordie, comes walking downstairs. Hi, my name's Geordie. And I explain to him what I'm doing. And he says, we have 2 places of worship here. We have a Spanish place of worship upstairs, and we have an English place of worship with a band
Does that count?
downstairs. I think they did count that those were 2 different places of
Nice.
worship. Because
Now
they-
you're cooking with gas.
Yeah.
I love this.
So anyway,
Efficiency.
and it was sort of interesting when I'll tell you this part of the story because we'll come back to it at the end. He said to me, can I pray for you? And I said, of course. So he's, dear Lord, please keep Vicki safe and help her get 112 or maybe 120 or maybe even 150. Okay, so fine. That was that. And then I went to the next one. By the time I got to the next one, they were having a church service. So I had and the minister spoke for 40 minutes. His sermon was 40 minutes long. So I had to stay for the whole service. And then I went downstairs. They were having a little potluck and they were so nice and so friendly. And that ended up changing the whole experience for me.
Yeah.
Because once I realized that I could just show up where people were at, so to speak, that people would be welcoming, they would be excited about it, and that was what I was going to need to do. So the next morning, I got up and I went to the 2 churches, and I went to 2 more. And so I kept all my appointments, but before appointments, after appointments, and in between appointments, I went to any other places that were in that neighborhood and just knocked on the door. I printed out hopeful forms the night before, so I would have a witness form in case they were there and willing to sign. And that's how I ended up with 185.
185.
Let me tell you something.
Wow.
Somebody's going to have to really get to work. And you did that in 25 days?
Yeah. Well, because I lost the first day.
So you could have smoked
and by
it
the
even
end,
more.
well, what happened was by the end, I was having to ride really far out.
Yeah, because
right?
also, and taking public transportation the whole time.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had no idea that I was going to, I won't say that I was running out of places, but once you get out into the suburbs, it not only was taking me a long time to get there, but once you get there, the places of worship are far apart.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're like 0.8 miles away from
Right.
each other. So it was getting difficult.
Yeah.
Had I known it was going to be like that, then I probably would have picked another place to go for the last week.
Yeah.
Right. A more central location. But I had no idea that I was going to get that many. And yes, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that when someone reads an article about me getting 185, they will not look at their spouse and say cavalierly, I think I could beat that.
Yeah.
They should be thinking 2 or 3 times about what it's like to actually visit 6 or 7 places a day.
So that minister that prayed for 150.
Yeah,
you
he
even
was
beat
lowballing,
Yeah,
right?
he was
lowballing.
He was lowballing, right? I'm like, Jordy, man, why didn't you say 200?
Yeah, what's
Where's
up?
the faith, brother?
Wow.
So when it was all said and done, what was the breakdown of like the percentage of, or how many different kinds of places of worship
Yeah.
did you wind up going to?
I did have some numbers, but I do know that I went to a Catholic high school, so most of my high school friends are Catholic. And I ended up, hooray for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I ended up going to 43 Catholic churches.
All right, wow.
Yeah. So I will say that the Catholic Church has really stepped up. They are it's a very traditional religious tradition. And so they have large worship spaces, they have offices, they have administrative assistants who are there all day, every day to sign my form.
Mm-hmm.
And so in many ways, they were some of the easier places for me to get.
Yeah.
Because they had people there.
Sure.
And they were there on Sunday morning. They were there on Saturday night. So that was helpful. But yeah, I went to, many, what most people would call mosques, what I call masjids. So Islamic spaces. I went to at least a half a dozen different Buddhist spaces, at least a dozen Hindu related spaces, not the ones out by O'Hare, the ones that actually counted. But what was really cool about it was it was so diverse in Chicago that it allowed me to really see the diversity within traditions, right? So, for example, I went to Midwest Buddhist Temple, which was a Buddhist temple that was started after World War II for Japanese people who had been released from the internment camps and could not go back to California. They were not allowed to go back to California. So they moved to Chicago and they built a couple of different Buddhist temples that I visited. One of them was Midwest Buddhist Temple. But then I was also able to go to a Kadampa Center, right? Which is just in a sort of a strip mall. They just have created a sacred space for themselves in a strip mall, and the Kadampa Center in Wicker Park. And that was great too.
Didn't you go to, when I was listening to your Zoom talk, you were telling the story about going to a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. So there's an interesting thing that they have in Chicago, and they may have it in other cities too. I don't know, but it was new to me. So I kept seeing these masjids on the map, but when I would look them up and look at their website and try to find an email or a phone number so I could contact them and see if they would sign my form, they were restaurants. And so every once in a while, they'd have a photo, and I could see that there was a prayer space. And I would look at reviews and stuff, and I'm like, wow, people are praying there, but I can't quite figure this out. And it was so far out of my comfort zone, but I was so curious about it. And so, really, on the first day after I went to Chicago Loop Synagogue, another place that I visited on that first day, Tuesday, September 2nd, was the Downtown Islamic Center. And so I said to him, what's the deal with these like restaurants or there's a masjid? He's like, oh, he said, there's a lot of Muslim drivers in Chicago, like people who drive people out to the airport or their Uber or Lyft, whatever. And he said they're driving around all day. And so they can go to these restaurants and they can get something to eat and they can go downstairs and pray, like do their midday prayer. And he said, you can go if you want to. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, just walk in. And I was like, okay. And so I did. I walked into one and it was in the restaurant and it was, I don't know, sometime around lunchtime. There were all kinds of people there. I was the only white person and I was the only woman. But you know what? No one looked twice at me. These guys in the window said, can we help you? And I said, well, actually, I'm trying to get a Guinness World Record. And so they said, yeah, you can go downstairs. You can go downstairs and you can look at the prayer space and we'll sign your form. And this is why we're here. And this is what we do here.
And they were welcoming and kind
of
and
course.
Supportive.
Yeah.
Well, so that's one of the things I've been thinking about with this experience for you, because you have a doctorate in psychology, but you're also an ordained minister. And you've written a children's book on the world religions and on spirituality in the world. How did that background play a role in your willingness or your ability to navigate in some of these places that most American cultures would say are not safe for white women?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things about that. And my high school friends were very afraid for me. They did not think I should be walking around Chicago by myself. And I was looking at it like I'm in downtown Chicago. I'm literally walking on the L lines and bus lines, right? It's not like I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And so one of the things that I hope that this attempt does is it just maybe inspires someone. It inspires someone to be just a little bit less afraid. Even if you're just going to drive to work and you pass a Buddhist temple along the way, maybe you won't be so nervous about that. And so that was a part of it. So I have been to most of the places of worship here in Asheville in one way or another. And so I do have experience. I do know mostly what to say. I do know mostly what to wear. And yet there were some places that were really outside my comfort zone. One of the places that ended up being very interesting to me was there are a lot of Orthodox Christian churches in Chicago. We have really one Orthodox Christian church here in Asheville. It's a Greek Orthodox church, and all the people who are Orthodox, for the most part, go to that church, whether they're Greek or not. But in Chicago, they have, Russian Orthodox churches. They have Eastern European Orthodox churches. I was telling someone I went to an Orthodox service in Church Slavonic, which is it's what they call a created or designed language. It was invented by a monk in the 9th century, and the reason was so that people from different European cultures or countries that we have now could all worship together and understand the language more or less that it was in. And so it's a kind of a created mishmash of various Eastern European languages, and it's called Church Slavonic. I had never even heard of it before.
That
I
is
went to,
so
I had to
cool.
come. I had to come home and learn.
That was
about
Bondar.
Yes.
Bondar came from that.
I think he did, as a matter
It
of
was
fact.
Slavonic
I think
Orthodox.
that's exactly what Alan
And they
Bondar
had
came from.
they spoke in 3 different languages.
Yeah, he said the services took forever because they would say it in all 3 different
3
languages.
different languages, yeah.
Yep.
That's
I
so
went
cool
to
that you went
it was
there.
really cool. I went to his, and in very traditional Orthodox churches, there are no pews, so you stand on the vigils on Saturday night are over 2 hours long, and you stand.
What good is religion if it's not painful? I mean, really.
That's true.
Well, that is kind of a thing. That is kind of a thing, right? There has to be some sort of a, gauntlet
personal
that you run through. But then I was invited to go to an Orthodox Catholic church. I mean, not an Orthodox. I was invited to go to a Ukrainian Catholic church. So that's like an Eastern Catholic church, right? And it was the feast day of the birth of the Virgin Mary.
Wow.
Monday, September 8th. So they said, well, we're having a liturgy in the morning. You want to come? I said, sure. Well, it's going to be in Ukrainian. And I said, that's not, I'll be able to follow along. It'll be all right. And he said, well, I'll have it printed out for you in English. So I show up. It's at 8:00 in the morning. I show up and I got there before the guy that I was meeting. So I was just standing outside taking my selfie and taking my little video and waiting. It was very lovely. And all these people are walking in the church to go to the liturgy, speaking to me in Ukrainian. These people did not speak English. I am literally in downtown Wicker Park, Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And so when my person came up to me, I said, all these people are speaking to me. I guess it's Ukrainian. I didn't know what to say. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, a lot of people here don't speak English. So we went in and we toured it around and he gave me my little pamphlet in English. I could not follow. I had no idea what was going on.
In English.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, it was fascinating. And yeah, so the whole service was in Ukrainian.
What if there was a church that not exceeded expectations, but is there a certain experience that you can remember specifically about a certain church that either like exceeded expectations or like helped shatter a stereotype that you think we should know about?
Well, I do think that going into that, the Masjid Tabak at that restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Because even when I walked in the door and I was the only woman and the only white person, I expected more of, I'm embarrassed to say, I expected more of a negative reaction. And I did not receive that. And then after I was welcomed there, I really felt badly. I was like, this is in fact the whole issue that you are working and inspiring again, right? And I fell for it, right? In some ways. And so I feel like it just is it's always difficult to remember that we're all part of the same human family. And even though I spend all day, every day in this line of work, I'm far from perfect. And so it was interesting to re-experience, right, that little teeny bit of prejudice about the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, though. We live in a culture that goes out of its way in some ways to inundate us, so even on a subconscious level.
Right.
There's a reason I even asked that question.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have my own embedded prejudices or fears or anxieties or concerns, I wouldn't even have asked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, related to that, one thing I was talking about was my friends being nervous for me walking around Chicago. But the other aspect of it was that they were talking about Trump bringing in ICE in September in Chicago. It was supposed to, that was all supposed
it's
to
so
start.
funny when you align history and you're like, oh, these things are happening at the same time. And your brain is like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. And so that was supposed to be happening at the same time. And so the narrative in Chicago is interesting anyway. And this has been true for decades. There's a lot of talk about crime in Chicago, right? Which is why my friends were nervous for me. They live in the suburbs. They live south where I grew up in Kankakee. Chicago feels I wouldn't say very, but feels a little bit dangerous to them. So that's always been the narrative in Chicago. But now on top of that, we have this other narrative, which is that ICE's Border Patrol is going to come in. And so that was the narrative on the news, on TV, in the newspapers, whatever, online. My phone knew that I was in Chicago, so it kept feeding me news from Chicago, and it was all about ICE and Border Patrol coming in. And yet, I was having these amazing experiences all day, every day. I was walking around. I was knocking on doors. Every place of worship has a security system now. So what was happening was I was ringing the bell, right? And they were looking on the video and they were seeing me standing in the doorway and they surmised that I looked safe. And then they would either buzz me in or sometimes they would come to the door and stand in the doorway, right? Because we've set up this situation of fear, right? So people are afraid to knock on doors. People are afraid to answer doors.
I've literally never been any place that was as dangerous as people told me it was. It's never happened once in my life.
Right,
That's not
exactly.
to say it's never been any place that had vibes, but I've never been any place that was as dangerous as like the news says it is.
Right.
You know,
Because, and the news is part of why we pay attention to the news is because it's news, right? It's supposed to be some big story that we all need to know about. As we all know, our everyday endeavors are
Yeah.
mostly not news.
Right. If it wasn't exceptional, it would not be news.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of people on TikTok, for example, who they travel in Iran, they travel in Afghanistan, and they post these videos. And because we would think, oh, those are dangerous places to travel. And these are, white Europeans who are touring around and meeting wonderful people. And so that's what was happening to me all day, every day. And so it was really fascinating to have, my little individual life be just one connection after another, one beautiful space after another, one group of people working really hard to contribute to their neighborhood and their community, one right after another. And then to have this really counter narrative that was happening above all of that.
That is
And I was just
absolutely
sitting
wonderful.
here thinking, like, I was going to ask you the question, but I think you've already answered it. But I was curious if at any, like she mentioned this, like an experience, but did you have a moment during this entire time, like, for example, that maybe felt supernatural?
Well, the back to your point, I mentioned the Masjid Tabak, but there was one place that ended up being super fun,
Hmm.
super amazing, and I had not had that experience before. So there's a place called ISKCON, which stands for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, what we would all call the Hare Krishnas. So we don't have an ISKCON here in Asheville. We have a more traditional Hindu temple that I've been to many times. So this was a great opportunity. They have a kirtan every Sunday night, and then it's a teaching and a kirtan, which is a call and response chanting time, and then a vegetarian meal. And so I emailed them, and they're a big organization, and they have someone who answers email. And he said, yes, of course, please come be our guest. We'd be happy to have you. And I said, great. So Sunday night, I wasn't really doing much else. And so I go down to ISKCON. It was the most amazing experience. I'm thinking about just becoming Hare Krishna.
Just because the kirtan is so good.
The kirtan was
I
so
love
good.
kirtan.
Me too.
I love. Let's go.
Kirtan.
Let's go.
Is this food?
There's actually
it's worship
someone.
music.
Okay,
there's-
sorry, I didn't know what it was.
So kirtan is call and response chanting.
Okay.
And a chant could go on for 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, and it gets faster and louder, and then they bring it down, and then you do another one. And there are people here in Asheville who do kirtan, and so yes, we can go. I have someone in mind that we can go and do his kirtan. So anyway, he does kirtan regularly at Asheville Community Yoga,
Yeah.
and also West Asheville Yoga.
Okay.
So yeah, and I've been to other kirtans, so I love kirtan. So that was great. So we go and do the call and response. I meet my person. We go and have the vegetarian meal. We chitter chat, and then he says, "Listen, I get up at like 4:30 in the morning, and so I'm out. I'm going home, but here's someone who can hang out with you." And so she was young, a graduate student. So I don't know, late 20s maybe. And she said, okay. So we go back in because the kirtan continues on, right? And so she said, let's dance. And so everyone's dancing and doing kirtan, and you can take pictures of the deities.
Yeah,
and
it sounds
was
amazing.
so fun. And all they care about one thing: love. It's it's just that. And they don't care. You don't have to, look a certain way. You don't have to dance a certain way. You don't even have to chant a certain way. I mean, I didn't know all the words. No one cares. And so I just felt like I was glowing after I left. It was just so fun. And I was like, yeah, this is what people talk about when they talk about the Hare Krishnas.
Yeah.
And it was not anything but that. And the space was nice and it was beautiful, but really I think it was mostly the energy of the place. I loved it. But I'll tell you what, I went to some really amazing Catholic churches too that were just beautiful.
Probably not as burned down the walls worshipy as Kirtan. But
No, a little more,
Yeah.
a little more
a
placid.
little more buttoned
and-
down,
Yeah,
I
buttoned down.
imagine. But
So
maybe not.
that leads me to a question that probably has a sort of an obvious answer in some respects. But what's the prettiest place you went to?
Yeah, so I can't say that because they were all so different. But not just that, they were all so important to the people who worship there.
Yeah.
I was just amazed. I mean, they could be huge spaces where they had a historian who gave me an hour-long tour, right? To this tiny little place that was in a storefront. But they were so important to the people who work there. And so many of them were working so hard in their communities to be good community members and to be good members of the neighborhood. And so that to me is part of the, I mean, pretty, maybe not the exact word I would use, but that was part of the beauty of it, right?
Mm.
Was that these were places that people had chosen and they were connected to them. And a lot of people did not grow up in whatever religious tradition they were in now, right? A lot of people, I would say, a lot of people who were raised Catholic stay Catholic. You're raised Orthodox, you stay Orthodox. But a lot of people, you go to a Buddhist temple and they're like, well, I was raised Baptist and then I moved here and now I became Buddhist. And yet they were still very connected to that space, that way of articulating the divine and whatever their practice was. And their practice then informed, for many people, the people I was meeting, how they lived in the world.
I have this feeling of envy. Like, I have such a myopic view of worship anyway. It's very, very small, right?
Yeah.
And so I would love to be able to see what you've seen.
Oh, brother, go to Kirtan with us.
Yeah. Just holla.
Yeah, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
Well, so that's why I sort of self-identify as an amateur mystic, right? Because for me, I feel like the more ways that we can find to connect with the divine each and every day, each and every minute of every day, the better off we are. And so it is true that there's some forms of worship that are not my personal favorite. But I also think that there are lots of places and spaces and forms of worship where I can connect with the divine. And the more of those that I have at my disposal in my toolbox, however you want to think about it, the better off I am, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never even thought of it like that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just how myopic my view is. I never even considered it that way. Just like when she said a toolbox, like
Yeah.
the spiritual toolbox.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. With lots of different
I love it.
different tools.
I love that.
But I don't think that's necessarily true for everyone, right? So I think, some people were raised in a home religion and that particular toolbox works for them.
Right.
And I think that's fine. I wouldn't say, everyone needs to learn about, I think people do need to learn about world religions, but I don't think necessarily everyone needs to participate in every spiritual practice, right? I do think we need to give people more space to figure out what their spiritual practice that works for them might look like.
Yeah.
I think we might be better off if we open that up a little bit rather than assuming that people who don't stay in their home religion are heretics in some way
Yeah.
or lost in some way.
Or people who aren't subscribing to our home religion
That's right.
are lost
That's
in
right.
some way
That's right.
or failing in some way. Yeah.
And eventually, I think we have to say that even people who have no religion, right, who are then do
Our beloved Andy.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
Atheist extraordinaire.
it's easy. Yeah, it's easy to say, well, those people are lost, right? So how do we get to a point where we can really deeply appreciate our own spiritual practice and equally appreciate the spiritual practices of others? Because it really is about not what you believe and not what you do in your place of worship, but how you live
Mm.
Yeah.
out in the world.
Would you say that you are a different person in December 2025 than you were in early September? Would you say that this experience has changed you, or were you already this way?
I would say that I was probably already this way, but I'm also a firm believer that, we are who we are because of our experiences.
Yeah, of course.
So I have never honestly in a 25-day span or 30-day span, whatever we want to call it, I don't think I've ever felt that much love and support and connection
It sounds like an amazing journey.
all
does.
day, every
Yeah.
day was just all. And there were a couple people who were like, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that." I mean, don't get me wrong. There were
Sure.
a couple people who weren't into it for whatever reasons. That's
Yeah.
fine. So a couple people emailed back and said, "Yeah, we're not going to do that," which is fine. But really, in terms of just all day, every day, experiencing this level of love and support and connection that I've never had before. And I will always, always carry that with me, right? That will always now be part of who I am as I move through the world.
185.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I've done 185 of anything. Maybe donuts.
I was going to say probably like spoonfuls of ice cream
There
going
you
up to my
go.
mouth.
Yeah,
You
but not in
know?
a month. Well,
Not in a
maybe.
month.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did in a month. It
It was a rough
Listen, when I
month,
was pregnant,
yeah.
I did
was
that.
a rough month.
I said, when I was pregnant, I did that in the sitting, sir.
There you go. 185.
I don't know. You should go on the Guinness, not that you should, but you can go on the Guinness World Record site and you can put in ice cream and you can see what all the records are
my
for ice
God.
cream.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
there's
Oh, my
there's records for
gosh.
all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's
Man.
crazy.
Wow.
And see
Eating
what you see
contests
what-
are
yeah.
eating contests are brutal enough. Can you imagine doing it with something that will give you a cold headache?
Yes.
Oh.
Did you, just out of curiosity, did you pay the money and get the world record holder images and all the stuff that you wanted?
Oh yeah.
You did it.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So I will say that they're they're a good company. They're a good company, and the Guinness brand means something. They work very hard to protect that brand.
Yeah.
And the Guinness brand means something. When I would knock on people's doors, ring their doorbell, and say, "I'm here for a Guinness World Record," that made a difference.
Yeah.
That made a difference.
In case anybody doesn't know this, that is the Guinness Beer Company.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's who started it. I don't know. They're probably, pretty independent under the same name at this point, I'm sure. But yeah,
It's
And
what that whole idea is the same like Red Bull. You guys look at Red Bull in the extreme sports and how it brings everybody
Oh, yeah.
wants wings, right? It's Red Bull. That's what Guinness was doing early on. They were
Yeah.
they were making things that were exciting, and they've been doing it for how many hundreds? Over 100 years,
that's
right?
minimum. Yeah.
I had literally no idea
Yeah,
until
I
just
can't-
this
I
precise
can't-
moment that Guinness Book of World Records and Guinness Beer were the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what
Yeah, that's why I
happened
said it,
was
because I know not everybody knows.
I thought it was like
Yeah.
an area in Ireland or something.
So
Yeah.
you can
Good
well
thinking.
that too, but you can when you go on the Guinness website, you can read about their history. And I can't remember how long ago. Was it the late 1800s
That's
or
what
the
I'm
early
thinking.
1900s?
That feels right, but I'm just guessing.
Right, I'm just kind of guessing too. But anyway, of course, people would sit in the bars and they would in the pubs, as they say. I'm not going to try to do any kind of accent here. And then they would say, I've been told my accents are very bad. I've been told. So, and people would get into arguments.
Yeah.
And there's a story. The original argument was about a bird. And so, are you looking it up right now?
51 is the inception. 55 is the
1951,
actual
the
first
book, the
publishing.
first book.
Yeah.
So they hired
1951?
Yeah, it's a little,
Yeah.
little later,
later
than
than I thought,
Yeah.
too.
And what does it say about the bird? What does it say? They were in an argument
Oh,
about
I
which.
only skimmed the year.
Yeah, look, I can't remember if it was which
Like
bird
why it
flies the
started.
fastest or
Yeah.
lives the longest
Yeah.
or some such thing as that. And so they decided they would basically hire a publishing company to create a book to answer those kinds of questions
Right.
and to resolve those kinds of disputes. And
So-
I think the original question has never truly been answered. That
Oh,
was
really?
never in the
A
original. I think
European
it's been
swallow or an African swallow?
No, it's like a mergansett, a mergansett. Or,
Yeah,
You don't know what that is,
Well,
do you?
Monty Python
Monty
reference.
Python
Oh,
joke.
Monty
Oh,
Python about
okay.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
the Holy Grail.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Yeah, it sounded like a joke was in there somewhere.
I know. I
It's
can
Monty
tell by their
Python. I can
faces.
tell
I'm
by
like,
their
okay,
faces.
we're not getting something.
Yeah,
Monty Python.
Vicky and I were never teenage boys, so maybe we missed.
It wasn't bad. It was
I'm just
actually about
making a joke.
birds.
Yeah.
It's about birds.
Yeah, it was just about birds.
Actually about
It's
birds.
just about
Yep.
birds. Anyway.
Wow.
But anyhow, Wow. Do you have a space where all of your awesome stuff is coalesced? Like if people want to learn more about your story or if people want to hear more about it, like
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so there are a few different places where people could go. If people want to hear more about it, Religion Wise did a podcast with me called Breaking Barriers and Breaking Records. Anyway, it's on the Religion Wise website. I also have some stuff on my website, which is World Religions for the number 4, worldreligionsforkids.com. And you can go to my vlog page and I've got some information there. Eventually, I will record a talk and get it up on YouTube. See, here's the thing is I didn't have any plans for when I got home, because I really wasn't convinced that I was going to break the record. So like you see these things where, they have this huge ceremony and all these people come and cheer. I would have never done. I had this little tiny ceremony. It was my husband and my judge and me.
Mhm.
I wasn't going to invite people to something that
Yeah, you weren't. Yeah,
I
Yeah.
didn't even
locked
know.
in. Yeah.
And so I thought maybe I would come home and I would just be like spending the whole month convincing myself, good try.
Yeah.
That was fun. No, it's okay if you didn't get a record. So I had no idea what it was going to be like when I got home because I really didn't think I was going to have the record. So it's been a little bit of a slow startup in terms
Yeah.
of getting the story out. But I was going to tell you, if we have time for one more story,
Oh yeah.
I went to I did one night, went to one of the suburbs, drove to one of the suburbs, clocked out, so to speak, and had dinner with all my high school friends. And I am in a random act of kindness group, a rat group, and there's 12 of us. We're all women, and we turned 60 a couple of years ago, and we started this random act of kindness group, and we all contribute money, and then each month one person decides what nonprofit we're going to give it to. And it was just a fun way to wish everybody a happy birthday and do something good for the world. And so it's continued on since then. So they all wanted to get together, the rat group, whoever could make it wanted to get together for dinner. And then there was this kind of random guy from high school who lives in the area, and he wanted to come to dinner too. And so I was like, okay. I mean, the more the merrier, I guess. And so my friends are all asking me, they said, well, how many do you have? What's your number? How many have you visited? And I said, well, I think I visited I don't know, maybe 125 or 130 at that point. But I said, my number doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is Guinness's
Yeah,
number.
what they
I don't know
accept,
what
yeah.
they're going to count.
Because you're uploading stuff every night,
Yeah,
but
and
you
I'm-
still have no idea
No, I have
whether
no
or not it's
idea.
valid.
No, and you can
Wow.
imagine people were writing the wrong date on the witness
Sure.
form, or they're writing the wrong time.
Oh yeah,
and,
totally.
and so it's not matching my timestamp videos and selfies. And so I didn't know how picky they were going to be. I had no idea. And this guy who came to dinner with us, he said, well, you just got to do 50 more than you think.
Yeah.
And I was like, 50 more? Who are you? And why are you saying that to me? I have already visited 125, and you're just
Right.
just do 50 more. And he said he had a friend, a coworker, a colleague, something that was going for a Guinness World Record, and he thought he had it, and then he didn't. He
Oh,
didn't.
really? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that happens a lot. And they said that to me at Guinness. They said, we just want to make it clear to you, a lot of people attempt Guinness World Records and they don't get them. And you know what? He was kind of right, because when it was 76, I should have been going for 50 more.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Yeah.
So he was not wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who don't get a record. So I did not want to
Ah.
invite people anywhere to anything. That was just me. I'm just not brave in that way. I'm brave in
Well-
other ways, but I'm not brave in that way.
Homeboy that visited 111 sites
Well,
thought that
so
he
they
was
had
good,
they had the record for 3 weeks.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
That was it.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah,
About
3
the
weeks.
time they updated the website, they had to change it
Does
again.
Guinness
and
let you know when somebody takes your record out?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Because he could be out there right now saying he's
Yeah,
holding that
See, but-
record,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
and
Like,
you
can
have
you imagine?
smoked that dude.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Smoked
totally.
him.
Right.
We got to find out who he is and email him and just let him know.
Just be like, bro, just in case you didn't know,
Bro,
you're
she
not
smoked you
you're not the best.
and could have done more.
Yeah.
She stopped at 25
Right.
days.
Yeah.
Could have done more.
Wow.
Do you just this is going to be a crazy question. Do you have any other ideas for Guinness World Records that you're thinking of?
So in mid-August.
Here we go.
In mid-August.
Oh, okay.
Mid-August was the kind of a low point, right? Because I had just gotten the rules the end of July.
Yeah.
And I had, I was watching the clock tick down to the time when I was going to Chicago. And it was really rough. And people weren't emailing me back. And I didn't have enough appointments. And it just felt really, really hard. And at that point, I looked at my husband and I said, babe, no more ideas. This is my last idea.
This is my
I
last
swear.
idea.
No more ideas. And he did the same thing he did when I said I was going to break the record. And he's like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
We've been married a very long time.
That's great.
And it took about 6 weeks for me to have some more ideas.
Yes.
But they are not Guinness records. So
Wow.
it's one of those things where I feel, and I've had a few experiences like this in my life, where it was such an amazing experience that I just feel like I need to move on from that. And just, that's it. That was the pinnacle for me. I will never be able to have that. Some people have asked me, do you think you'll break your record? Will you break your own record? And I feel like I probably could break my own record at this point, but it wouldn't, because I know how to do it now, right?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be the same experience.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
It would not,
Yeah, it would not
be
be
what it was.
Yeah, you're right.
I would never be able to recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an amazing experience that I'm okay with never being able to recreate that.
Yeah.
That's part of what makes it an amazing experience.
Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't have to happen again. It happened already.
Well,
Yeah.
it can't happen again.
Exactly. It can't. That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Well, gosh, this has been just an absolutely
a joy.
wonderful
Oh, thank you so
episode.
much.
I just knew that
This
this was
flew
going to
by
be.
so
I know, it's
fast.
so fast. I know. This is just incredible. And folks, if you're listening, what we're going to have to do is we will link all of Vicki's stuff that she mentioned in the show notes. So if you want to go check out her website, buy her books, especially if you have young kids, and we can try and find the website with the podcast that you also did.
Yep.
So in addition to this, you can go listen to more of the story. So
Can you
all
guys
right.
invite me to what is it called?
Oh, Kirtan.
Please
invite
invite
you
me to the Kirtan. I've got to try this.
Absolutely. My friend Jeremy will be very happy if we all 3 more people walk
Let's
in the
hammer
room.
down.
I
It's
love
really
kirtan.
fun. It's
Come on,
really
Andy.
great.
I'll
Let's
go.
hammer
Yeah.
down.
All right,
on it.
Andy, here
I
we
listened
go.
to a ton
Yeah.
of kirtan when I was walking the hike in the community of Santiago.
Oh.
Yeah, because it was nice and rhythmic.
Yeah.
And so I
Ah.
listened to it a lot.
I like any sort of
I
chanting,
thought it was
right?
food. I'm going to
Yeah.
learn.
It
I'm
wasn't
gonna
just you. I was like, that must be a food.
That's what I thought it was.
That
I'm
was
so
right
glad
there.
that I didn't know, and now I'm going to find
Yeah.
out what it is.
Now you're going to find out. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. But any kind of chanting is good as far as I'm concerned. I just think singing is one of my favorite spiritual practices. So, yeah. Have any of you done Taizé? Oh, Taizé.
Is that a dessert?
I know.
No, it
Is
was a
it
joke.
right?
Sorry, it was a joke.
Sticking with the food theme.
Look, I'm a guy that likes food,
If
okay?
you don't know, guess it's food.
Maybe it's just wishful thinking.
The chances of getting me there are pretty high when it's food.
Yeah.
What is that?
So Taizé is, they are kind of melodic chants that come out of the Catholic tradition. And Taizé is a French word and it was started in France. But there is a church here in Asheville that used to do, and I think they still do, Taizé services once a month. And they're really grounded, especially for people who are struggling. In pain somehow. I went to a Taizé service one time and I was just chanting along, and they might read a few readings and stuff, and I was just chanting along. And there was a guy in front of me and he sobbed for the entire hour.
Wow.
And then he got up and left. So they can be really, really powerful. So I will look up that church as well and see if they're still doing Taizé, because that's really fun too.
I
Yeah.
love it. I'm down.
You haven't done
No,
Taizé
I have
either?
not. So
There you
that'll
go.
be really exciting.
That's cool.
So-
No.
Well, we'll be sure when we do go, we'll be sure to come back and give you guys a rundown. Let
That's
you know
right.
how it went.
That's right. We'll
Yeah.
tell
We
you
might
what-
even
we'll-
record it.
We'll give
Put
you
it on your
Right?
Patreon.
That's right.
There we go. Put it on the
Put it on
Patreon.
Patreon.
Now you're
Right?
talking.
Poor
I got
sad Patreon.
my mobile mic. That was an excellent deal.
Yes.
All right.
Oh
that's
yeah, there we
right.
go.
Yeah.
If that's allowed, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'd have to ask. Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks again for listening in. This has just been an absolutely fabulous episode. I knew it would be, and we will catch you folks next time on
Thanks
Notes
for
from
having
the
me.
Other Side.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye.
Folks, if you're enjoying this episode, you might really enjoy some of the benefits that come with being a Patreon subscriber. Over at patreon.com, we have different levels of membership, and starting for as low as $2 a month, you'll get access to things like all of the notes that I use to make these episodes, bits of script that didn't make it into the show, and even bibliographies about the books that I read to get where I'm going. Through Patreon, you even have access to some of the video that we take for the show. So some of those interviews that you like so well, you'll get to watch them in real time. So once again, head over to patreon.com/NFTOS, as in notes from the other side. That's patreon.com/NFTOS for more information about becoming a Patreon subscriber to this show. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. Regularly. Because I have a mouth that moves faster than my brain.
She also has a
times.
section of her show called Whoops.
Whoops. Yep. So every once in a while, I need to start a show with a whoops, where I correct something dumb I said last time that I thought about and went, nope, that was dumb, and did some research.
Man, Teasy, you should cry more often. Your skin looks radiant.
Radiant.
I don't want you to cry.
I know. I just need to get like needles and start poking myself right before I go somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, Larry. All right.
You look amazing. Thanks, I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Thanks, I've cried all night.
Yeah.
I also took a shower today, which I don't always get the
There
chance to
it
do.
is.
That might be it.
That's what it was.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
Exfoliation.
Okay, we ready? We're rolling.
Go.
Okay.